Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining me for this IPA talk. And with me today, very fortunate to have Beth Heller, who is with Shield, Illinois, out of the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, but the whole university system. And they've done the work related to the saliva test for COVID-19. And Beth, if I know, this thing's not just happening at the University of Illinois campuses now. You guys are in higher ed institutions in a lot of places. I think the General Assembly here in Illinois is using your test. And I know we have some school districts in Illinois using it as well. So thanks for being with me, because I know we're not out of the pandemic yet. We're still going to need to be doing testing. And this might be something that school districts might even want to consider. And so wanted to be sure to share out some great information about what you've got going on. So first and foremost, again, thanks for being with me, and just tell us briefly a little bit about yourself and what you do with Shield, Illinois.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Jason. It's really nice to be with you. My role at the university is I'm the Director of External Relations for Shield, Illinois, which, as you said, is a PCR saliva-based COVID test that was created at the university in August to get our constituents back to campus. And I am working with all the K through 12 schools throughout the state. And it's been a wonderful process as we've been able to help add another layer of mitigation to the mitigation steps that are already in place in the school. So by testing the students, the faculty and staff, and all the constituents within each school/district, we're able to catch asymptomatic carriers and help pull them out of school so that we can contain the spread of the virus.
Well, that's terrific. And Beth, we do have a presentation for you to kind of walk us through here. But just a quick question, like when you thought of things that you would do in your life, did you ever think you would know as much as you do about saliva and testing and things related to infectious diseases and all of that stuff?
Nope. We call ourselves Team Drool. And I never ever thought I'd be on Team Drool.
Yeah, well, I know this is not to make light of a really serious topic and a very tough situation as we work through the pandemic, but we need a little levity occasionally. So
I agree with you.
Appreciate you entertaining that question. And that's great to know your guys' team nickname. So that's so if you wouldn't mind, I know you've got a PowerPoint to share and some information to walk us through. So I can see your screen, and I'll just turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thanks again, Jason. So as I mentioned, Shield, Illinois is a screening testing program that deploys the University of Illinois' PCR COVID test throughout the state. And what happened back in August, bringing back all of the students and faculty and staff, is our scientists at the university developed a test that could provide rapid results, basically next day results, so that they could catch the spread and really help allow for university students and faculty to be in person in school. At that same time, the Board of Trustees decided they wanted to help with our state of Illinois. We are a land grant-based institution. And so they decided they wanted to create and build labs throughout the state and really help get K through 12, get kids back in school. That was really the premise of what they realized that they wanted to do. As part of that, of course, helps the economy as well. And so we are looking and we are helping many businesses stay in business and allow people to be in person safely. So we are using a cost recovery model, which means this is not for profit. We are not out there making money off of this. We are just really trying to help as much as we can. And so our test is a low cost. It ranges between $20 to $30 for this PCR test. And as many of us know, I'm a mother of two boys, a sixth grader and a ninth grader. We know it's expensive. It's hard to get tests. Results can take a long time. So we are fast results. We deliver results to the district within 24 hours of samples reaching the lab. Currently, we average about 12 to 17 hours for that result time. But we also deliver results to IDPH, and everything is through a HIPAA secure health records portal. I mentioned this before, but our mission is to test everyone. We are looking at a proactive approach so that we can identify asymptomatic people and have them quarantined before they can spread to others. Our accuracy is very accurate. We recently received our FDA emergency use authorization. And in that study, our accuracy is 97% for sensitivity and specificity is at 99%. All of our labs are CLIA certified, and I mentioned this before, but we built about 7 labs throughout the state, high capacity throughput labs. And then the other great thing about our test is it is diagnostic, which means if you get a positive result for us, you don't need to go seek another test result. And currently, we've done over 2 million tests at the university, and the positivity rate at the UIUC campus has been below 1% since September 7th. And this is UIUC, and you can see this orange line is showing you the positives. And we've been able to mitigate and keep the rate, at this date, it was 0.36%. And again, the reason is that we're trying to catch patient zero. And by catching patient zero, we're limiting the spread. These are just a little sample of where our labs are currently throughout the state. So we've got Rockford, Loyola Maywood, Gift of Hope, Wooddale, ISU, Springfield, and Decatur. And this is just a slide to show you some of the people that we're working with. We have many school districts throughout the state. We're working with Argonne National Laboratory, Rivian Electric Truck Company. We're also helping, as you said, the state legislature. We're also working with the federal courthouse and testing all the judges, jurors, and lawyers, et cetera, so that they can get back into session and have trials.
I got to tell you, hearing you say that about jurors, since jury duty can be tough enough, very grateful to be having a drill test rather than them having to, scratch your brain with the swab. So
that's right.
That's much better.
You're right. That it's a non-invasive way to help. And they've already they started jury trials a couple weeks ago, and they've already caught a few positive asymptomatic jurors. So It's great because when you build a jury, it takes a lot of work, as we all know. And so if you get a false positive or you have someone in there infected, it really sets them back as they have to start over again.
Right. Because then you're dealing with quarantining that whole group, right?
Correct.
So, absolutely.
So it puts everything back. So this is not current, but this is a list of some of the schools and districts that we're in currently.
Yeah.
And, we work pretty closely with our superintendents and our principals of the schools, really to help them and guide them to make this work for them. And, I would say, Dr. Sachinsky at District 93, for him, this is an equity barrier removed because he's experiencing in sometimes double digits in numbers of positive cases. His community is really affected. And so for us to get in there and find these asymptomatic positives really helps his entire community. He's also opening it up to do community testing so that he can test parents and first responders and things of that. So we've found some really amazing partners that we've worked with, again, different leadership in the school level, and just helping them to really keep transmission low within their community.
So Beth, and maybe you're going to address this, and so if you are, I don't want to get ahead of you in your presentation, but could you just give us a bit of a picture? So if you're looking at Hillsdale District 93, what is logistically that process looking like for them, or what's happening in that district? Are they testing all of their students weekly and staff? How does that work? And then with opening it up to the community, how are they dealing with that? Which I think is terrific, by the way. But just if schools are interested in pursuing that, how is that working? Are they offering it up to communities and businesses within their community to have their teams come in to be tested? They're dealing with the logistics of paying for it and dealing with those cost implications. I'm just curious about it because I see this as a real opportunity for districts, not only to keep their schools open, but also to be very service oriented, when it comes to their broader community as well. It's a great PR opportunity, I would say.
That's right. So I'll answer the first question I think you asked, which is how often are these schools doing it? And it really depends on their decision on how often they want to. So in this case, District 113, which is Highland Park and Deerfield High Schools, they are mandating testing for students twice a week. So they test Monday and Thursday for their faculty and staff, which is optional, and Tuesday and Friday for the students. As you'll see as we get into this presentation, you'll see I talk about the frequency of testing and why the U of I tests twice a week, and I'll explain that a little later. District 93 is also testing twice a week. They actually have received funding from the Rockefeller Foundation to help do this testing. And so they are able to test twice a week and really, help the community.
Yeah, that's terrific.
And then with community testing, it's opened up, and we're able to help support with some grassroots marketing and try to get the word out to get as many people going there as possible. Testing is really important because if you don't test, you don't know. 59% of individuals that are positive in a recent report from the CDC says that those 59% of those individuals are asymptomatic. They don't have symptoms. They never have symptoms. They're walking around transmitting the virus and they just don't even know. So doing community testing and allowing people to come in and get tested, not just for symptoms, but just to be tested, is a wonderful way to catch the virus and keep the spread down. Okay, so COVID Shield, which is the name of our test, is a highly sensitive molecular RT-PCR saliva-based test. And, many people have been talking about the Binax Now test from Abbott, which is a great test. But there's two different tests to be looking at. One is the molecular test, which is the Shield test. We can detect the virus earlier than antigen tests, and it has greater accuracy. Antigen tests, which also are wonderful, and we recommend that they're used in conjunction with our tests, they are more for on-the-spot symptoms-based testing. So if you don't feel well, if your faculty member isn't sure if they have a cold or if they have COVID, we recommend that the nursing staff or whomever is running the test can give them the Binax Now test, and they can get results within 15 minutes. And then our test comes in as a screener. And so I'm sure everyone's heard of PCR now at this point, but PCR is really the gold standard of testing. And again, I am not a scientist. However, as you said earlier, it's interesting. I never thought I'd be here talking about viral genetic material and things of that nature, but it is actually extremely, really interesting to see how this process works. But when the saliva sample goes into our PCR machine, all PCR machines, what happens is that the viral genetic material is replicated. And so we are able to see low viral loads. And this is important for two reasons. Number one, we know that young children carry low viral loads. So we can detect even the lowest viral load and detect if a child is positive. But it also helps as you're in the beginning stages of the virus. We can see it early, really early, potentially 2 days after you're infected. And one great thing about our test, unlike many other PCR tests, is we are looking at 3 different genes of the virus. For us, we have to have at least 2 of the 3 genes pop as a positive. And when those 2 pop, it shows us that we are a positive. So that's what keeps our accuracy very, very high. And the other component of it is that we are able to detect for variants, because some of the variants that are out there right now, including the B117 variant, which is the British variant, what happens is they have a gene dropout. So the S gene is dropping out of detection. And because we're looking at 3 genes, 3 targets, we can see it. And another wonderful partnership we've created is with Thermo Fisher, who's the leading supplier of reagent materials. And the reagent is what gets mixed in with the saliva to allow it to be tested. And this kit that is coming from Thermo Fisher is actually one of only 3 kits that's able to identify new variants. And so they are really constantly updating and allowing us to keep up. This new California variant, which we've all been talking about, we're seeing it already, and we are able to detect them.
Hey Beth, quick question here is I'm looking at this last bullet point in terms of supplies. Are you guys experiencing any issues with regards to having the materials you need for the test kits at all?
No, we are fully locked in with our chain of supplies.
Yeah, that's wonderful, especially as we look to try to bring on additional school districts and other businesses and things.
We have the capacity for it, and we also have all of the supplies. So we have no chain of supply, any issue with any of that.
Yeah, great.
And I'm not going to spend too much time here because we've already talked about it, but I think this is potentially one of the most important points to make, is that patient 0 can exponentially transmit the disease, the virus, to many people. And so if we catch this person, and that's what we're doing in all these different locations that we're testing in, is we're really trying to stop the spread and catch patient 0. Because if you don't, like I said, it becomes exponential, and you're affecting your entire pod, your entire sports team, theater, whomever. So we're trying to catch it before you can do that. This is a slide from our lead epidemiologist at the university, but really day 1 to 2 is where you get infected. And this is kind of just giving you a little example of how the virus works. But in day 1 or 2, you're infected. And then day 2, day 3 is where you can start to begin to test positive, and saliva can catch it that early. Day 3 or 4 is where you're likely now infectious and really mostly infectious. And day 4 to 9 is where, if symptoms occur, they occur. And you'll see here that this red line, and this graph I find extremely interesting, but this red line right here is your viral load. It's the shedding of the virus. So when you're in this viral load, it's your ability to shed and transmit it to someone else. So this day -5, you are potentially infected. Somewhere around here, day 2-ish, day 3, you start to have a viral load that's building up. And by day 4-ish, you're at your peak. And that's one day before you even have any symptoms, if you have symptoms. So our test can really come in here, and we can catch it here. And it's why the university is testing twice a week. They test basically every 4th day, 3rd to 4th day, so that they're able to catch it before the spreading begins.
It's interesting about this, as I look at this image, Beth, is, the complications, obvious. I guess the assumption I've always had is while you're still dealing with complications, you still may be carrying a viral load that could be shedding, but that's not necessarily the case. You may be done shedding the virus, right, or having the possibility of infecting others, but still dealing with complications long beyond that. So that was informative to me, as you were even showing this to me a couple of days ago when we were talking about it.
I agree. Mm-hmm. So a little recap is just our program tests everyone, not just symptomatic individuals. Many individuals report no symptoms, however, they're still transmitting. And testing frequently can help identify the virus before the shedding begins, which enables quicker isolation and, again, reduces community spread. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about the collection process. Our FDA emergency use authorization and our CLIA lab both require us to do what's called an observed test. So we have to watch the drool go into the vial because we have to have chain of custody of whose drool is in the vial. And it is important for us to keep that up. And so it's why you'll see in a minute how I'll show you what a collections process looks like at many schools and also the university. But for now, this is saliva. And what saliva is able to do is A, it doesn't require medically trained collection staff to do this. B, it's non-invasive, like you brought up before, Jason. We're not sticking anything in anyone's nasal cavity. We can detect it earlier. It doesn't detect dead virus as much. And it's been a really, really great strategy to be able to detect the virus. These are
can I step back? When you talk about like with the not detecting dead virus, so is that something that could be causing for false positives? Is that it's picking up on dead virus?
Yes. Yeah, at the end of your infectious period, nasal can catch dead virus longer than saliva usually. Yeah. It lives with, it's my understanding that it lives within your nasal cavity. And so saliva is really showing you what's inside your body.
Interesting.
So this is what our vial looks like with the funnel on top. And you can see they're drooling into the vial. And this is an example of a collection site. And many of our schools, this is a university, many of our high schools are using this approach. We have another approach that we recommend with potentially elementary and middle schools, where you can do the process either inside the homeroom or just outside of the homeroom. And I will show you a little video that can explain it. But what happens here is that the individual checks in, they get their vial, they walk over here, they drool, they walk to the exit station, they show their QR code, which is assigned to them, as well as their vial, which has a barcode, and they place it in the tray and they leave. And it's a pretty quick process. It usually takes 3 to 5 minutes to run through. And let's see if this works. Can you see the video, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is at one of our school districts. You can see she's in her homeroom. She's given her QR code that's been laminated by the school. And she's going to walk to the gym. And at the bottom right, you'll see there's an elapsed testing time to show you how long it takes her. And as she's walking, she's actually collecting drool in her mouth so that she's able to, collecting saliva in her mouth so that she can drool pretty quickly. And so she gets into the gym. The nurse is there at the station. She hand sanitizes. She's given her bag. In this case, the school chose to place the items in the bag. And this is the nurse and the superintendent, in this case, both handling the collection process for the school. We also have some third-party collections people that can come in and help. But so she removes her mask, and I love how she doesn't even take her mask fully off. She's tapping the side to get the bubbles down, raises her hand because she wants it to be checked to make sure there's nothing inside that won't work and there's enough saliva in there. She takes off the funnel, puts the cap on. Now the superintendent there is scanning her QR code, scanning her vial. She walks over to...
How much saliva do they need again?
2 milliliters.
Okay, that's not bad.
And most schools, in this case, this is Dr. Suchinsky. He's in there, but they've all figured out how to get this. It's not complicated. So she hand sanitizes again, leaves, gets back to her classroom, and this is all done in under 4 minutes.
That's amazing.
Which is great. And I would say that pretty much every school I talk to say it's under 10 minutes of disruption time to do this. This is a 5th grade school, and what they are doing here is they are doing it in the classroom. So they're actually bringing out they're doing it in the hallway of the classroom, but they bring out 4 students at a time, and the person is drooling in the hallway. And I'm just going to fast forward it just because we're watching him drool for a minute. But then the nurse there checks it just like the other one. And now he walks over to what we call the drool train, because in this case, the drool train is going from classroom to classroom to collect the samples. Same process occurs.
It's impressive they've got that fully mobile.
Yep, they've done a great job. And so in this case, the school created a binder with all the QR codes. And so Roger here asks the student, what is your name, your birth date, checks it, and scans it in. So the student never has to keep track of a barcode. We can also put the QR codes on phones. Some of them are able to use their badge that they already use in school.
Oh.
Let's see if I can move on now. So the school provides, the University of Illinois will provide all the samples, all the testing, all the results. We deliver results real time through what's called point and click. But one thing I want to point out here is that patients must refrain from eating, drinking, or putting anything in their mouth 1 hour to providing a sample. That just allows for a clear sample in the machine. And then after that, the samples are taken to the lab either by the school, a designated individual in the school, or one of our collections partners that we can recommend. Or lastly, we have MedSpeed, which is a company that can also come pick up your samples. And so that's it. I mean, basically what Shield provides is we will train, we will work with you, we'll provide a collection strategy, we provide the equipment, the technology, and we're also able to report, I didn't mention this earlier, but we can create portals for non-minors. So for the adults can have their own portal. And so they will receive the results just like any other test on their phone through this portal. And they'll know immediately if they're positive or negative. And they can also use that as a tool for if they need to have a negative PCR for, an airplane or another thing. And then go ahead.
So just along those lines, Beth, with regards to HIPAA, those issues, schools obviously are, I'm assuming anyway, are having to have parents sign off on their kids receiving these tests, correct? And then who is receiving the results? Are the parents receiving the results of student tests, or does the school have access to that, or is that how they set it up in permissions? Can you explain that just a bit?
Of course. So the way that it works with K through 12 schools, and because we're dealing with minors currently, is that the school will receive all of the results. They will receive the results of the faculty and staff and the students. Okay. IDPH also will receive all of the results, negative and positive. We also create a portal for the adult faculty and staff member to receive their own results. However, with the students, what will happen is that they won't get their own personal results, but they'll get a call from the school to the parent saying if it's positive.
Got it. I've now seen the consent form on the screen. So
yeah.
I missed that, but I was just curious if those details were kind of worked out in that.
So the school, the school would create the consent form and work on getting those back and basically add them to the system once they're registered. So if they're in the system, we know that they are able to be tested, and it really falls under the school, which is, schools are used to sending out consent forms and getting that all back.
Sure, you bet. Before going over your contact information, Beth, now you and I had talked about when we spoke a couple of days ago that certain districts in the state would be able to have access to this testing, potentially paid for by the state with dollars that have been made available for this through either state or federal funding. So could you explain that a bit?
Sure. Well, many schools have received funding from ESSER funds, the ESSER 2 funds that have come through, which can be designated to an EUA approved test. So many of the schools we're working with are utilizing those funds in that way. The state is building a process to help some of the low income school districts that also have high positivity rates. And so they are reaching out. ISB, IDPH, and the governor's office have been building some lists of schools that really could use this help and funding it. So there are two different paths on that.
So with regards to that path, will districts be contacted by either IDPH or the state board if they have been deemed that they could use that assistance, or would districts need to do that outreach themselves?
No, the state is reaching out to the schools that they are putting on the list.
Right. Okay. Very good. Well, I am grateful for your time here to talk us through this, because I think, as I mentioned before, I know we're still going to be working through the pandemic. I think testing, even into the next school year, is going to be very important. And we've got districts, of course, across the state. All of them have received some substantial federal dollars that can help, be used to support testing. And I think it's something that could definitely be considered, or should be considered, especially with this outstanding work that's been done to create this saliva-based test, and one that, the results that can be turned around so quickly. And I just would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out as a former chemistry teacher that it was a couple of chemists you told me that developed the test, correct?
That's right.
That's outstanding. Appreciate
Marty
it.
and Paul. It's wonderful. They are very smart chemists.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yes, and it's great. And I wanted to add that, currently we the recommendation, because this question comes up often, is, the recommendation is to still test even if you're fully vaccinated, because we are finding positive cases in fully vaccinated individuals. And there's still a lot of research to be done as to if you're able to transmit when you're fully vaccinated, and, really how are these vaccinations affected by the variants. And so there's a lot of research still out there. So I think it's important for schools to realize that even though you are vaccinating your staff and potentially some students, A, not everybody's going to be vaccinated, and B, the efficacy of the vaccine is not fully understood yet. So I think for now, we should be testing just to have the information. And I do find that testing in the schools and the businesses and other areas that we're working with, it's an anxiety relief a little bit for the faculty, for the students, for the parents. Again, I'm a mom, knowing my children are tested, even without symptoms, I know that if someone's positive, they're going to be positive, and they're not going to be in school to spread it. So I think it just provides this level of security of knowing that we're catching these asymptomatic carriers.
Absolutely. Well, there's definitely some assurances there. And I think your comments with regards to the vaccine are spot on, especially because we don't even know how long the vaccine will be effective, right? We're still trying to figure some of that out. And I know some of the studies are showing, like with Pfizer, maybe 6 months or so. But if we have people now we know have been vaccinated and are getting tested routinely, then we'll be able to, I think, have guarantees or have, better data with regards to how long that is really happening and when we may need to be getting booster shots and everything else related to that. So that's
well, and we know under 12-year-olds aren't even in the process for the vaccination process yet. So, there's going to be work that needs to be done in the elementary schools. And, kids still can catch and carry and transmit. So it might be lower and less, less dangerous for a child, but it's still there. My husband's a pediatric radiologist, and, he sees the few cases that happen with kids having serious issues, but they're real issues. So I think as safe as we can be, and I know, honestly, I think the hardest job right now is in the school environment, having to deal with everything that's happening. And so I just think this extra mitigation layer is a wonderful sort of additional layer.
Absolutely. Well, Beth Heller, appreciate you being with us. Just briefly, I know you had the slide up, but make sure people know how to get in touch with you. What's the best way to do that if they have questions or want to learn more?
Sure. Well, I will pull that up just one last time.
That'd be great.
Can you see that, Jason?
I can.
Great. So here's my email and my cell phone. Please feel free to email me, shieldillinois.edu or uillinois.edu/shield is our website. Some of these videos are on here with more information. And please, if you're interested and you would like me to speak with your school just to share this information or answer any questions you have, I am more than willing and happy. And again, our mission is to be here for schools right now and to help them. So the more schools we can help, the better for us.
Well, thanks, Beth. Outstanding work all the way around, and sure appreciates this critical information right now. So appreciate you being with me.
All right, Jason. Thanks for the time.
Again, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association with Beth Heller with Shield, Illinois. If there's anything at any time IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to check us out on the web at www.ilprincipals.org. And always remember, we're only a phone call away. So take care.